Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of New York Giants Corner here at the T2T Network. I've got Dan Behan here, my very special guest. Everyone, if you're a consumer of Giants content in Twitter, YouTube, you know our beloved Dan Behan. He's all over the place for a long time. And Dan, I'm so happy to have you on the show. How are you, my friend?
Thanks. Well, thanks, Joe, for having me on. Yeah, we've been talking for a bunch of years. It seems like we're always crossing ships all the time and always talking here and there for the last couple of years. I think the first time we really interacted was our friends Justin and Snacks' Bleeding Blue podcast with history. And so that's how we became friendly over the years. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm ready to talk anything Giants you want. So
yeah, man. And we're gonna listen. I'm all about tangents. I'm Mr. Captain Tangent. Dan, if there's anything that like you wanted to get off your chest when we get into the content, or something that's like you're dying to talk about, it's totally cool. But the focus of the show, I figured, coming in was great news over the past 2 days in Giants land here. You know, Saquon's back. I wish it was a long-term extension. I do, but you know what? He's back for this year on the franchise tag. I woke up this morning, and I woke up to a DM by Dan saying, we can also talk about Thomas this morning, and I've been dying for Joe Schoen to don't wait for the tag here. Get these guys signed now. And I'm like, all right, I don't want to jinx it. I saw Dan's DM. I'm like, let me go check out the rest of what's going on Twitter, the news. And sure enough, I go to like Talking Giants or whoever, right. Just to get confirmation because he said Thomas. I'm like, Andrew Thomas, may confirm. Sure enough, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't send you the tweet. That's my fault.
No. It's totally cool. You did nothing wrong, but I loved it anyway. It's kind of like opening up a Christmas present anyway. And I just got a little like sneak peek, so it was really cool. But so we're talking about our young players that General Manager Joe Schoen has done a wonderful job retaining this year. And I realize it's day one of training camp. The 2023 season's basically officially kicked off, but. And that's something we easily could have talked about easily. And if we want to get into that too, Dan, for a little bit, it's only going to be a half hour, 45-minute episode. I promise, Dan, that's it. But easily could have been that. But, man, I'm still so psyched about our young players being retained. Before we get to the actual content, let me get the bells and whistles out of the way. I'm going to make it as quick as possible. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Give us that 5-star Alpha review. All that type of stuff. All that type of stuff really helps us grow the program, the network. Really, really appreciate it. Where you can find our shows: Apple Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and Spotify. Our new, wonderful, beautiful website, toiletsandtitles.com, has all of our videos, articles. We cover NCAA football. We cover fantasy football. That's our original bread and butter. NFL football, draft content. We kicked ass with the NFL draft this year. I'm telling you, we had boots on the ground at the combine and at the draft, and we were actually getting the picks and announcing the picks like 10 seconds here, 10 seconds before they actually announced like on ESPN or NFL Network or whatever on stage. So I'm telling you, we're knocking it out of the park. And that wasn't me. There was a boots on the ground over there on our sister network, which is CFB Nation. At the CFB Nation, they do our college content. Those guys kick butt over there. And they were our boots on the ground for the most part with the NFL draft. And they're the ones with the connections, and they were the ones feeding us those picks for every single team. It was a really cool feeling, I got to say. Almost last but not least, patreon.com/toiletsandtitles. Go there. You can learn how you can further support our show. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to our current Patreon supporters. We appreciate you appreciating us. Last but not least, Gilded. We have our own chat in the Gilded app. Reach out to us about joining our private chat in Gilded, especially in the fantasy football season. You have any questions, start, sit advice. You got tons of fantasy football experts in there. I'm not one of them, but you got tons in there ready to give you advice. So I'm okay with fantasy football, but these guys are like sharks. So you want start, sit advice, come on in. We have a great time talking football. Dan's a new entry in there recently, and he's in our Frankenstein League. And it's our Frankenstein League is, I love it. It's weird. It's strange. It's the most different fantasy football league you'll ever see. Dan, the confusion is warranted. It's totally cool. I'm gonna hold Dan's hand through the.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to hold my hand for a bit, Joe, because when I first got thrown into the group chat, I was just like, I'm like, what is going on here? And Joe was on vacation, so I was like, all right, I'll wait for Joe to come out of vacation. Like, he's like, what? I'm like, what did I get myself into? But it seems like a good community, and I'm very excited to get into it.
It is.
It's going to be fun.
And it's only $25 anyway, $20 entry fee. There's no other fees on top of that whatsoever. It's a lot of fun. We got like 96 teams. We are trying to fill the last few spots, and Coach Sheps, who runs the league and who runs Toilets of Titles, is also giving out, I think, one free entry if it hasn't been taken yet. So we're close to filling the spots. Anyone who wants to hook up with our Frankenstein League, Fantasy Football, reach out to me at JoeJ_Clark or at Toilets of Titles, and we'll hook you up. And that's it, Dan. All right, content. Let's talk Giants football here, baby. Let's start off with our two recent signings, which one's a free agent tag, not free agent tag. I'm sorry. One was, actually, you know what? He actually signed a contract.
Wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange, and it was actually Saquon. All right, so I mean, Andrew Thomas is the most recent one, and we're going to get to that in a second. But Saquon Barkley yesterday was kind of a surprise, only because it looked like he assumed he's going to, sit out until training, till the start of the season at least. And lo and behold, he signed a 1-year contract. I was blown away. I was super excited. I get the whole running back argument, Dan. I get it. The economics, the value, I totally get it. But the way I saw it myself was that, and I don't blame Joe Schoen at all for his approach. I don't. Me, myself, I put myself that GM cap on, which we'll have to do as fans. And I'm like, you know what? Me, myself, we're not paying a wide receiver one conceivably anytime soon. I'm like, dude, I'll give him like 2 years guaranteed, like Christian McCaffrey type money. I'm the only person who's like, it's kind of crazy, but go ahead. But I'm like, we don't have a wide receiver one we're paying anytime soon, really. Most likely. Right. Dan, go ahead.
I get your logic in that, and I obviously respect it and I appreciate it. But
you don't have to respect it. It's crazy.
It's definitely outside the box, but I get what you're saying, but I don't want to blow up the running back market, especially with Saquon's injury history. This year was his first year in 3 years that he was banged up, but he played through it this year. But with him, it was just really one of those, all right, it's just who's going to play chicken first. And obviously everybody's upset that the running back level of money is just not there for everybody. Yeah. And I think the first couple of offers the Giants offered him, he should have jumped on right away because of seeing what the issue was. And then it was just falling downhill. And then they were just like, all right, Saquon, like, what are we doing here? Like, you're seeing the market. It would be bad management on our part to just throw you all that money. So it was really interesting to see, like, would this be the first time Saquon isn't that quote-unquote team-first guy who's going to show the team how to be that leader in the locker room and on the field, especially coming off of last season where they were finally a playoff team, and it was mostly because of him. He was obviously one of the key cogs in the offense of getting there, So it's really just one of those, like, I'm shocked he signed that loophole 1-year deal, to be honest with you, because I was expecting for the health would be like, all right, I'm not playing until week 1. I'll see you like a week before week 1. So I get my reps in practice and I will be playing in versus Dallas, So it was a really weird situation because if Saquon played literally any other position, he would have been locked up years ago. You know what I mean? So it was a victim. I think
like Andrew Thomas.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna get to him, but like I think Saquon's more of a victim of circumstance, and 100%. It's all like, all right, it's Saquon. We don't like Saquon. No, we love Saquon, but the market is dictating where to go, and it's just like we can't be doing that. We really, unfortunately, for whatever reason, the last few years, it was just like, all right, Gettleman, just like, let's just throw money at everything. And Joe Schoen's like, we're going to have to try to rebuild the situational things. We're obviously going to have to pay certain players and get those things done. And unfortunately, running back isn't that valuable in the grand scheme of things. So if we were like a one player away to be in a Super Bowl, obviously Saquon would be getting more money.
Yeah.
But I would think that would be the case.
Dan, I got to tell you, no, I agree with you in terms of the running back position and Saquon just getting screwed by circumstances, 100%. But isn't it weird, Dan? Isn't it strange what we've seen from talking heads, experts over the past few months, even over the past few days regarding like Saquon getting screwed by the Giants?
Yeah. I think it's
weird.
It's weird. Like,
man.
I think with us, we're following the Giants like a grain of like sand. We're on them like white on rice.
We're focused.
We're very, very on, right? So these guys on ESPN, they have to focus on 32 other NFL teams, which is obviously their job. But they're just looking at the bullet points. And then when you're seeing Daniel Jones only has 15 touchdowns and he just got paid $40 million, you're seeing like, okay, well, something's fishy here. Because Saquon, you have all Saquon stats, you have Daniel Jones stats, and you're like, yeah, something doesn't add up. But if you sit down and watch the games, you see Daniel Jones did what we needed for him to do last year. Was the passing game anything worth to be excited about? Towards the end of the year when we opened up the passing game, when Hodges came around and they seemed to everything got more comfortable, that's when you saw the real Daniel Jones. And it's just like, all right, that's the Daniel Jones we saw rookie year.
Yeah.
We're gonna pay him is what were our expectations was sort of be. They don't want to say that because it's easier to pile on the Giants. How can you give a quarterback with 15 touchdowns, passing touchdowns last year, all that money? And I get that when you're just looking at the ground, the above sea level look at it, but when you're at our level under the water, you see everything Daniel Jones does. You see what he does every day. Practice, he gets there. He's the first guy. He loves his teammates. His teammates love him. Even when Darius Slayton will basically kill someone if you talk bad about Daniel Jones. So
I love Darius Slayton.
Yeah, he's funny, and it's just really one of those. It's the easy bullet point, and we've heard it all season long, off season long. Oh, Daniel Jones, how can you pay a guy that much money? But it's really the expectation of what Daniel Jones could be, and in a year, let's face it, in a year, Daniel Jones is going to be like the top 15 quarterback in pay wise because the quarterback worth that money is going to get it.
He became like number 12, late last night after Herbert. Exactly. And Burrow was probably going to sign an even bigger one soon. He'll be 13, and who knows? Maybe by the end of the season he'll be 14 or 15.
Right.
But it's like, you know what? But I get I'm not mad at anyone for like not being comfortable paying Daniel Jones all that money. I love Daniel Jones. I'm a big supporter. I'm a big believer. But I get the argument against giving him $40 million a year, even if it's only like 2 years guaranteed. I get that. Irrespective of that, it's like these are two different things. It's the quarterback position and it's the running back position. The running back position has cratered in terms of value. Dalvin Cook was cut. Nobody's really getting anything.
The Mixon extension too.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Saquon Barkley is, and Saquon's still one of the highest paid running backs right now. We have like almost like this seeming fake outrage, in my opinion, and I don't get it. To me, it's almost like there's some weird intent behind Saquon and Daniel Jones and Ryan Clark's real strange comments over the past few months. I don't want to get into too much detail, but the whole I'm going to stay positive. I'm happy Saquon's back.
Yeah,
I'm hoping for an extension.
Yeah, and it's still possible. Like Bobby Skinner mentioned on Talking Giants the last couple of days. It's like I think it's in good faith that I'm not Daniel Jones. Sorry, I was on a Daniel Jones tangent, but it's a good faith for Saquon coming. There's no drama now until he's going to be facing the press conference. That after that, it should be good to go, type of thing. So it's really just going to be boiling down what happens in March, because he's not getting that money that he was originally supposed to get that he turned down because he believed in himself, type of thing. And then all the other contracts that he declined. It's like now what happens in March after he's on another year on over a couple hundred touches. You know, I mean, hopefully a 2K rushing year type of thing. I could dream, but hopefully 11 touchdowns, so he gets his incentive, and we're making the playoffs, and he gets all the money that he was incentivized to get. So it's just, if he wasn't a running back, he would have been paid already, and it's unfortunate for him. But we actually have a front office that's like able to like, oh, okay, like if Gettleman was here, yes, of course he drafted him 2 overall. We could have that discussion another day. Would it have been my first choice? Probably not. But looking back on it, it was a smart idea, because every quarterback that, other than Lamar Jackson and Allen, they are all busts. So they're all on their 3rd team or out of the league. So I mean,
Saquon is. It's interesting. I'm so glad he's there. It was day 1 of training camp, and then I wasn't there, but I'm not sure if you were able to make it to camp today at all. I wasn't.
No, I was at work.
Yeah, same here. I don't plan on going. Like, if I actually had slow days at work right now, I'd probably make a beeline down there, at least to get into like the, just the guys hanging out, like hanging out outside or something like that, just to be around the atmosphere. But I was following everyone who was there, and just the vibes were just awesome. And it's like,
everybody.
We made it through this off season, and there was a lot of like unknowns, unknown what's going to happen. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, who's going to stay, who's going to go, who are we going to sign, and even the free agents, from outside the organization. And man, and here we are, and it felt like today with Saquon, signing the contract. Was it yesterday, and then showing up? For me, it had that same vibe of like when the Giants signed Daniel Jones to the extension with like 3 minutes left to spare.
That day was insane.
I'm telling you, I loved it. What a crazy offseason. And then now let's talk about 2 players, 2 young, proven studs on the Giants. There's no one's arguing about these 2 players, Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence. Andrew Thomas, this morning, we woke up to that news, who is, right now looking like a top 3 left tackle in the league. Not just an offensive tackle. Forget about the right tackles. He's a blindside protector. He's one of the top 3. Huge extension. I don't know if it's the largest contract ever, but I believe it's the largest signing bonus ever. Guaranteed money ever.
Guaranteed money.
And so I'm like, Shane, please, let's get these young guys before they hit their tag here. Let's get them extended. And lo and behold, this offseason, Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence. Any thoughts on those guys, or anything to really add to that, or how do you feel? I'm just so excited. Like you said, we have a front office, a general manager who's getting this stuff done. These guys are proving themselves. They're in their prime.
No, it's like another thing with the culture thing. It's just like, all right, well, Dexter was on his 50th.
Do you mean the culture of meat, or do you mean the culture of me?
Oh, yes. That was before what I was talking about, of someone not being in the situation, knowing the team every day, and just going by what he thinks he knows, which is obviously a lot, obviously more than anyone of us will know. But you also need to know what's going on with the team. And it seems like the team is good, steady, like, you know what I mean? So with Andrew Thomas, it was not having to give him the 5th-year option and then the whole year of, all right, when are we going to extend him? When are we going to do this? And it's like, all right, good. The Dexter thing let me go with Andrew Thomas first. Left tackle, if your quarterbacks are righty, is essentially just as important as your quarterback. So you're giving him big money no matter what, and he's a top 3 player, left tackle in the game. You're giving him that money because you don't, knocking on wood, you don't have to worry about him anytime soon, other than if he gets plagued by injuries, and hopefully, God, hope not. But you trust him every game. You trust him in and out. You're playing the top pass rusher. He's good at run blocking. The only game he had a bad game was against Dallas when he was physically sick, and he had the flu that whole week Thursday night. Yeah. And it was against the best pass rusher, one of the best top 5 pass rushers in the league. So he's going to have that rough night. You know what I mean? He was a human then, So it really boils down to you got to get him paid. He was a top 5 pick, and you got to just suck it up, and you're going to have to pay it. And he's worth every
happily pay it. He's worth every penny.
Exactly.
I agree.
And you don't have the drama for the next 2 years of like, all right, when are we going to get the extension done? He's done. And it's funny when they are talking about 2029. It's like really funny. Like it's that far down the road, and it's just like
we're in the mid 2020s, man. We're in the mid 2020s. I remember when I just turned 52. I just turned 52 this week, and I grew up in the 1980s. I remember 1983 thinking, wow, we're in the mid 1980s. We're not even close to the 1970s anymore.
Yeah, that's how I feel now with the 90s. I feel the same way with the 90s. So yeah, man. It's just really just like, and 2029, like, oh god, okay, cool.
It's gonna come. 42. It's gonna come fast, man. It's gonna come
definitely. So, Andrew definitely 10 out of 10 times without even blinking. That was probably the easiest contract extension I've ever. It was just like, all right, Andrew, we need you, we want you, we love you. Here you go. Okay, that's good. All right, sign here.
It's got to be the easiest one because he's in his prime. He's young. He has no serious history of injury or anything. He's already proven himself to be like a top 3 left tackle, and I stress that for a reason I'll get to in a second. And there's nothing to argue. You pay him what he's worth, and obviously the team's going to do that. I'm just glad we did it now, and we don't have to worry about it. Like you said earlier, heading towards that tag year, when things can get dicier in terms of the negotiations. Maybe things get extended, and we got to start like this offseason, waiting for Daniel Jones to sign 3 minutes. Is Andrew Thomas going to sign up? Is he going to show up next training camp in 2024? Stuff like that. Like, thank God, these guys prove themselves. But Andrew Thomas, I just want to make the point of, and this is something that sort of became seemingly common knowledge. Because to me, it was regurgitated a lot, and it never made sense to me. But I remember, I don't know, as of 8-10 years ago, I started seeing and hearing going around a long time that right tackles is now today in this era as important as left tackle because they move these pass rushers all around all over the place.
Very
fair. I'm like, actually no, I disagree. I don't think it's fair unless you're Tua, unless you're a lefty quarterback.
Right. No,
most of them are righties, and if you got a train coming at you, Dan. Do you want to see the train coming at you, or do you want to? You're here coming from behind.
I agree with that. Of course, I agree with that standpoint. But I do get the. All right, well, like we're not putting Eric Flowers out there or Nate Solder out there. Is what I'm getting at.
Oh my God! Yeah,
that's where I'm getting. I agree with you saying. I'm just saying.
I know.
You also can't get any schlub there. He's gonna get killed. But you're right. You're better off seeing him.
Exactly. I want to see the train coming at me, not hearing it choo.
You're 100% right.
I know, and I just bring that point up just because I've seen other top tackle rankings out there. I don't know if I forgot who, might have been worse or these guys are like right tackles. They'll have a PFF score around or a little higher, and I'm like, dude, it's not the same thing. I'm not saying these guys aren't great, and I wouldn't want to have them on the Giants playing right tackle, but this dude's a left tackle. To me, I harp too much on it, but I never liked the idea.
You're right. You're right.
I'm right because I'm always right because Joe knows, Dan. You're going to learn quick. Joe knows.
Definitely. No, you're right. I had to clarify what
Nah, it's okay. But, all right, Sexy Dexy,
of course, man. Coming off an All-Pro year, it's just another team guy, man. He's a lovable guy.
And it's just what about his God? I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm not big on having stats in front of me. I'm just going off recollection. Him playing the zero technique this year. He switched to zero technique where he's dead center over the center.
He was an animal this year. Just an absolute animal.
You look at I think it was the pressures on the quarterback compared to other players who were playing zero technique, and it was something like 55-9. It was something outrageous. It's the number two position had whoever was behind Dexter in the number 2 position had something like 9 pressures over the center.
It was something
crazy. crazy.
And I think he fits well with Wink's defense. And it's like, all right, obviously you could stop the run. You can get to the quarterback this year. Let's just get after it. You're going to have Leo next to you. That's going to help you out and clog some areas. Healthy Leo. This year was his first real year of him missing games. So hopefully that nips it in the butt, because he's 1 for 1 in he's 1 for 1 right now in contract years. The first contract year was whatever. The second year was the year he had double-digit sacks. And they're like, all right, I got to get paid. So I think him and Leo is one of the top tandems in the league. I know one of the podcasts mentioned that. It's definitely a top 2 because the guys in Washington are out of this world.
Talking Giants. It was Bobby Skinner today, talking Giants, yeah.
And I absolutely agree with him. I'm not trying to take Bobby's thunder, but he was absolutely right with that. So it's just really one of those things of just like, you got Dex ready to go, and you got the right defense for him right now. And can he top what he did last year? Probably not. But if he does, that's going to be great. Another year with an all-pro type of defensive tackle. So, and he's a good team guy. So you really can't go wrong with that. It seems to be that trend. It seems to be the common trend coming this year, the whole smart, tough, and dependable thing that Abel and Shane talk about. So.
They're just all good team guys, man. They're all good team guys. I love the energy of this team. I love the culture.
And I love that they were all Gettleman guys, but and they all had to see for themselves. They all had to break out, and they're finally breaking out under the right coaching staff and the right coaches, and like they're finally getting it going. And it's just like, all right, Gettleman was a crazy guy with free agency, but drafting, boy, he was sure crazy, but he kind of knew what he was talking about. And I'm not defending Dave Gettleman, but some things you got to be like, okay, well, drafting-wise, he wasn't so terrible. At some aspects, yes. We're not going to go through his whole draft thing, but the ones that he hit on, he really hit on. So
that 2019 draft class is looking pretty darn solid. You got Daniel Jones, you got Dexter Lawrence, you got Darius Slayton. We should have kept Julian Love, in my opinion. And of course, people will harp on, what about DeAndre Baker? Whatever. They traded up to the end of the first round. Who cares? But overall, that 2019 draft
him and
class,
Tony, man. Him, Tony, and that was his last parting gift to us.
And I made it a point. I think it was last week's episode, or maybe the week before. I'm like, man, it's funny because that 2020 draft, or 2021 when we took Kadarius Toney, Gettleman's last year, we entered that draft with everyone regurgitating and hammering home. Dave Gettleman never trades back. Dave Gettleman never trade back. And mea culpa, I was in favor of a trade back. I was, but we could have. But I also, I wanted Micah Parsons. I'm like, Rashawn Slater, great. I think he's gonna be good, which you wound up being good. But I'm like, man, I'd love to have a presence like Micah Parsons. But you know what? Listen, we traded back. It wasn't a bad idea or anything, but took the wrong guy in Kadarius Toney, and that.
Well, we got Evan Neal out of it, so hopefully Evan Neal, and we got Darren Waller out of it, so hopefully it looks good.
Big year for Evan Neal, man. I'll tell you, if he takes a big step forward, I'm not even looking for him to take necessarily an Andrew Thomas step forward. Thomas's second year. But just be kind of in that range. Just a big, he's got it in him, Evan Neal. It's my understanding. He's another hard worker, another young, hard, dedicated worker where he was working his ass off this offseason. And so I think he's gonna be very much improved. Is he gonna take an Andrew Thomas type leap in his second year? I'm not gonna predict that, but I think he's gonna be much better. And man, you throw JMS in there in the center, it's kind of like a keystone in the center of the offensive line. We could actually have a legit offensive line.
Yeah, we could definitely have a legit and young.
Yes, young. I'm looking forward to it.
Controllable. So
exactly, I love it. And all right, Daniel Jones, and then we'll cover Darius Slayton. Daniel Jones, listen, it's been talked about for months. He was extended, months ago. Me myself, I was super happy. It's funny because I thought, I remember it's like when the season first ended, there were people like, oh, I'll probably take he'll take a 2-year deal, like $32 million a year, he'll be happy with it. And yeah, listen, most people thought that, and I'm thinking, man, I don't think so. I think this is probably going to take it probably is going to take like a number with a 4 in it, which other people started saying. I'm like, as he's a quarterback, and I realized that there aren't a lot of people who are super high on him, and understandably so. Like, he's got to prove himself more. But I'm like, I think he's proven internally. I have a feeling Brian Dable really likes him a lot and really believes in him. And the fact that he was signed to $40 million a year is proof. Tell people it's obvious proof that Brian Dable wanted him back and believes in him, at least for like 2 years guaranteed, which is not a big deal. It really, really is. I've been a backer and believer of Daniel Jones. I feel like he, like many other players on this team, but especially him as a quarterback, were screwed by bad coaching. I can't stand bad coaching, man. It's like, it just, not only do we, as fans, we see game losses, but you're talking about careers, football careers, that are shortened, hindered, like people are just blown up, by it. And I'll say this about Daniel Jones, because like I said, like obviously he was extended. It's not new; he was extended months ago, but I had to throw him in there because it was
no, absolutely. And I think you saw his value when he got hurt in the end of the 2021 season. When I know the season was already lost, but it was just like, it was unwatchable. Like, we had the stomach watching them 3 hours. And like, I was contemplating like, oh, why am I even going to games, or like, why am I even watching it? I'm like, well, I'm going to tough it out. But yeah, I was at that Washington game when we did the QB sneaks. That's how bad it was.
Man. And that was the end of Joe Judge's career right there.
Yeah, for the Giants. And it was just like, man, I like Joe Judge, but his whole 40-minute press conference after the Bears game was just like, Joe, this is undefensible, bro. And
yeah.
Sure enough, he was fired the next week.
It was fine, man.
Yeah, and it was just, as you can see, all right, Daniel, it's obviously Daniel is not a schlep. We know that. Can we get him the right coaching? And will this coaching, all right, we're not going to give him the 5th-year option, but will he come in and learn, which we all know he would ultimately do? He basically listened to what the coaching did, and wherever the coaching did, it's for the factor of the 15 touchdowns, but we still found ways to win every week. And he was a big focal point in that.
He is.
And a lot of people don't want to give him credit for that. And sure enough, for whatever reason, is he Patrick Mahomes? No. Is he Joe Burrow? No. You think so? Okay. Well,
he's better.
I mean,
you'll see. Mark my words, Dan
Behan.
I'm joking.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Drinking my Kool-Aid over here.
Yeah. Are there guys that you're like, oh, okay, I wish we had him, of course, but I think he's done enough for last year to prove himself again for the next 2 years, at least the next 2 years.
Think about the needles that dude had to thread.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's like, you got to root for this guy. Even if you don't believe in that value, the contract, it's like, you got to root for this guy.
And the hate in his own fan base. It's just like, I have a cousin that he makes me look like a Daniel Jones, like complete homer. I like Daniel Jones, I support Daniel Jones, but you're making me sound like Daniel Jones is the next coming of Joe Montana. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, you got to give me something here, man. Like, what else do you want this guy to do, kind of thing?
They want to see wins. They want to see wins.
Yeah, and they got it last year. And, of course, the one game I took them to was the Washington tie. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a long ride home.
Yeah, you're never going to hear that. It's funny. I was with my good friend Scott here in my town. He's a Giants fan, too. And I was over at his house with another friend, Howard, watching the Tennessee game last year, game 1. And I'm a defender of Daniel Jones, and Scott doesn't like him, And but we're at Scott's house watching, and Daniel Jones throws that inexcusable interception, to Saquon. It was, and it was, and of course, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking like, dude, come on now. And to Daniel, like, Jesus Christ, Daniel, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no,
and Scott, of course, is there to say, there you go, Daniel
yeah,
Jones.
No, yeah, man, yeah. That's how I got those texts.
Yeah, I know.
So, and then when we made the playoffs, I was like, oh, now you like him, huh? We're making the playoffs.
Yeah, he looked awesome in that Minnesota game. Yeah, he got blown up. Didn't look good in the Eagles game. I mean, I don't think
no one was looking. Honestly, no one was.
No one did.
It was fake. It was fake bravado. It was fake, like, excitement. We're gonna beat the Eagles, but it's just like,
I had a feeling. I had to say, I'm like, man, I was like on Toilets of Titles, a few days before the game or the night before the game, and I'm like,
it's just like Eli all over again. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, man, my brain is telling me it's like no way, but my heart, like, there's some sort of, and I'm not like, I don't, when I do predictions, the homer me, like, I'm not a homer, but I'm like, man, there's just an energy. Like, there's a feeling like this time we're just gonna not to make it to the Super Bowl, but we'll at least piss in the Eagles Cheerios,
Yeah.
And it didn't happen.
No, that ended real quickly. And
yeah,
he didn't have the best game, but I think no one did, and it was just the piling on, and our defense just not having the running or stopping the run.
Yeah, but man, just the needles he had to thread to get back on this team. Like, whether it's even if it was just, say, like a tag, which was never going to happen because you're not going to do a $32 million tag, and but just to get that second contract, the needles he had to thread was everything. He had to do like everything right, at least within Brian Dable's eyes, and he did it. And it's just, the guy is does everything right as a quarterback. I'm not saying he does everything right, like talent wise, like Tom Brady, whatever. But in terms of being at the facility at like 5 a.m., last guy out, apparently always like really helpful with his teammates, always working out, physical, off-season, football, getting together with his receivers, in the off-season, and and throwing the ball around. Dude, I just love that guy. I really respect him. He's honestly like one of my top 5 Giants of all time, just because I respect him so much.
Yeah, people joke that he's like the clone of Daniel Jones, and he really is.
Oh, Eli Manning.
Yeah, Eli Manning. Sorry, yeah.
You can't get more clonish. You can't get more clonish. You really can't. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, you think I suck? Oh well, like that's the running joke of Michael Strahan from America's Game for the 07 season. You say I suck? Oh well, I guess I suck, kind of thing, and just like, oh hum. And it's good and bad because you don't know what kind of quarterback you're going to get. But it's exactly what we need in this market of like, all right, he's going to be tough.
Yes.
If we lose, we know he's going to give us everything we have. And unfortunately, it doesn't work out all the time. But when we win, he's going to be there and he's going to give his teammates all the credit. So it's it's really exactly one of those things of like, he's that guy. And we hope for the next couple of years, as long as he's a Giant, he keeps on building and hopefully gets us to where we want to be. We're so
I like the quiet guys. I'm never the biggest fan of the guys who are like, you do it once you win the Super Bowl, it's cool, but like the guys who are like constantly like ripping off their shirt, their helmet, in the camera, it's just not my type of player. I like the quiet guys who just go out, all right, yeah, I lost, I'm going to get better, I'm going to improve, and they do get better. You got to be wary of the quiet guys. You know why? So the quiet guys are the ones who may be the serial killers. So you got to be wary. Be scared of the quiet guy in the corner, like Daniel Jones and Eli Manning, serial killers. But all right, Darius Slayton. Talk about another dude that had a road to travel, who almost seemingly was going to be kicked off the team last year. Which
that was always weird to me. I always thought that was weird. I always liked Darius. He obviously had that great rookie year, and then he became our leading receiver the next 3 years.
Just obviously, because we had nobody else. It wasn't he never stepped up to be a wide receiver one, but
he's obviously not perfect. But I think with other weapons, he's a good piece to have. And I think hopefully this year that he's option 3 or 4, depending on the game week. I think that's perfect for him. Perfect. And you can tell how much he loves working with Daniel when you see him on Twitter, and he likes being a Giant. He could definitely be a Giant for the next couple of years if it doesn't seem like he will say no to any sort of contract, because he he got paid this year. So, and he took less money to stay on the team last year. So, Darius Slayton is that nice piece that you're like, all right, we're all gonna like him for his personality. Is he the most perfect player? Of course not, but he's a perfect piece to have on your team, and he's gonna take care of it. Sorry.
Don't hate. No. It's okay. I was gonna say, don't. This is a message to our fellow Giants fans. Listen, Darius Slayton's not perfect, but he's good. He's a quality NFL wide receiver in my opinion, and he gets paid what he should get paid. You know what he's worth, like $6 million or whatever. And the thing is that he's got. Listen, be happy that he's available. He has a history of being available. Our wide receivers are usually not available. Right. He's got a history of being available. He does have some ugly drops. I agree. He also has some big plays. But the big thing is that I think like his faults and deficiencies have stood out more and have irked people more because we've never had, but ever since we traded OBJ, haven't had a wide receiver.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, so it's like that's why people are relying on him, you know, more just because we haven't.
And unfortunately, like you said, the drops come at the worst possible time.
The worst time. The Vikings game could have killed us. The playoff game could have killed us.
Yeah, that, and then last year's Washington game, and then both Washington games because you dropped one in the tie one. So
yeah,
he's far from perfect, but he gives you everything you need, and you respect that. And he's a good piece. I'm not going to say, like, all right, we're going to build our receiving core around him. No. Obviously not.
No.
He's a good complementary Batman, Robin to someone's Batman.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Like, listen, he's just someone I think you can count on for, you know, to a certain extent, a good extent.
But, and obviously, him and Daniel has been working since 2019. So.
Yeah. And he's and I will give a warning to other, you know, fellow Giants fans out there in terms of like Isaiah Hodgins has very good hands, and the dude reminds me quite a bit of Amani Toomer, you know, in terms of like,
you know what? Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, Toomer is like an all-time Giant great. So I'm not going to prove him just there yet, but his attributes remind me very much of Toomer. He's got really good hands. The guy catches like everything. But I know maybe there are some fans that are, you know, kind of like hoping or thinking that he's going to be wide receiver one, develop into that. I just don't want people to get their expectations up that high. Hey, God bless if he does turn into wide receiver one. I just don't want other fans to get their expectations that crazy. Like I think they kind of did with Darius Slayton after his rookie year. Just let's see how he develops. And I think he could wind up being a legit wide receiver too. If we can get like a T. Higgins, maybe trade for a T. Higgins as a wide receiver one.
Well, that would be something else.
that would be fun.
That would be fun. But yeah, no, he's a good player, not a great player. And if the pieces fall where they should be, he's a good player to have on your team. But am I expecting him to be our number one receiver and being like, holy crap, that's our number one wide receiver? Absolutely not. We've seen it enough. It's been 5 years. So he is what he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I just don't want people to get there. I'm very excited about Isaiah Hodgins. I just don't want people to. I'm just saying, remember Darius Slayton after his rookie year. People, chill out. We need like a real wide receiver one. And if Isaiah Hodgins can be a great number two, that's awesome. That'll be great.
We don't have that 1A guy, but we have all these pieces that hopefully we figure it.
Yep, absolutely. So anyway, guys, we're getting up to the 45-minute mark. I promised Dan no more than half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm pushing the brink here, 44 minutes and 12 seconds. My dog Melvin's getting antsy now. Anyway, so we're going to wrap it up here. Dan, day one training camp, good vibes over there. We've got our young players. We've got all of our players there. It feels good. Let's just stay healthy.
No, it's all about the health.
Yep, absolutely. All about the health. All right, man. So that's a wrap for tonight's episode. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Dan, do you want to talk about anything you got going on at all, or?
No, I don't really have much going on right now. But stay tuned. I'm always on Twitter and talking G-Man and whatever. You'll see me someplace.
Absolutely.
But I'm excited. I'm excited for the excited for the training camp, and hopefully the season gets rolling and we stay healthy. And it's going to be a tough season. It's going to be a tough one, but
it is. But where we are improved too, and I think dramatically. My dog's going crazy. Dramatically improved. So I got to take care of Melvin before he gets mad at me. So
sounds good.
And
thank you for having
everybody,
me on.
Have a great night. Take care, everyone.